Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Yesterday, World of Darkness released a 17-minute video covering RPG and narrative elements in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. It was mainly an interview between Ian Thomas, narrative director at the Chinese Room sitting on the left, and Sean Greeny, executive vice president at World of Darkness, sitting on the right. A couple of in-game conversations were mixed into the video as well. In some ways, this content really helped to sell the game, but unfortunately, it also tempered people's excitement for the sequel. I have seen some people saying TCR really needed to knock this footage out of the park, considering how long this project has been in development hell, and that they clearly didn't do that. I disagree, because at the end of the day, we know the game is more than a year from release. There are some serious issues that the footage shows, but very little that I feel like cannot be fixed prior to fall 2024. I want to unpack all of that, but first let me remind everyone that here at Slandered Gaming we focus on RPGs, and more specifically CRPGs. You can find builds, guides, and live streams for games like Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, Baldur's Gate 3, and Pillars of Eternity. If that kind of stuff interests you, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future content. Alright, so let's dive into the video. Like I said, there's some good and some bad here, so I'm going to weave back and forth between both sides. Starting with something I like, the story has been completely changed. Originally, you were going to play the game as a Thin Blood, who was basically a nobody that had been thrust into this vampire world. That could be interesting, but honestly, the starting at the bottom type of story is done all the time in RPGs. The Chinese Room appears to have completely abandoned that original narrative and instead will allow you to play as an elder who has been asleep for 100 years and has suddenly woken up. Elder vampires are at least 300 years old, so the character you play as is someone who was born at least 400 years prior. There is no amnesia mechanic in this game, so right from the start, you know what it means to be a vampire. The problem is, you know nothing about current day vampiric society, so there's still a need to lean on peers to fill in the gaps. You also wake up to see a mysterious vampire carving a mark into your hand, which is blocking many of your more potent Eldar abilities. Over time, you will recover much of what you have lost, or potentially become even more powerful than you have ever been before. Few vampires live long enough to be an Elder, so your character has a rich history, and many other vampires are fully aware of your past as a hunter who is prone to violence. Ian compared it to a Western where the gunslinger comes to town and everyone has already heard of him. The cool thing about this is the devs will let you toy around with your background. People may have heard that you're a bloodthirsty killer, but you can actually try to convince them that this is all just a myth or add a different spin to the details. Ian compared the background system to Mass Effect, saying it's similar but more complicated. I am not sure why he did that, considering Mass Effect had a very rudimentary background system that could easily be surpassed, but still, what he talked about sounds cool. What I am not a fan of is the lack of character creation options in the game. You can choose your gender and hairstyle. It doesn't appear you can change the character's face or their name, which is Fire, Phyre. I'm sorry, but that name sounds extremely uninspired. I am 400 years old and my name is Fire? Yeah, no, I'm not feeling it. And frankly, I think being called Fire for 20 hours straight will get old super fast. Then again, don't pay attention to me because I said the exact same thing about being called Shepherd. The voice also cannot be changed, and yes, your protagonist is fully voiced. I know some people are not a fan of that, but my opinion is that voice acting done well makes just about everything better. You only hear a few lines of dialogue in the sneak peek, so I cannot decide if I like the work thus far. I will say the female voice doesn't sound like somebody who has been through 300 years of blood and slaughter, but still, with a larger sample size, it may turn out her voice acting really shines through. The final and worst character creation note is that this game will only launch with 4 clan options. Holy smokes, that's awful. This is a terrible move that will absolutely turn off many fans in a major way, regardless of which 4 options are chosen. Being able to pick your clan is arguably the biggest draw for playing in this world, and giving us so few choices is a really baffling decision. Each clan has its own background, culture, and powers that are associated with it. Ian hinted during the video that the game will blur some of those lines, and you might be able to get powers that would usually be reserved for another clan. For those who are curious, the clans I want to see the most are Bruja, Tremere, Malkavian, and Nosferatu. Unfortunately, I have a sinking feeling that my top 4 is very different from the devs list. They are probably going to choose boring options that are reflections of humans you can see in other entertainment properties, like Toreador and Ventru, instead of the choices that are more unique. On top of this, the Chinese room confirmed that one additional clan will be offered as DLC, and you know for sure it will be paid DLC. This is really unfortunate and reeks of releasing an incomplete game to pull more money out of consumers. Announcing your DLC when the game is almost a year from being released is always a bad move. Finally, there will be a 6th clan that is part of a standalone DLC. So basically, if you shell out the extra money, this game will come with 5 clans as opposed to the 7 clans available in Bloodlines 19 years ago. It's hard to imagine this decision doesn't backfire. And better news, it seems like this game will have multiple levels of reactivity, which could be very exciting. We have already spoken about how Fire's history will heavily play into the narrative. In addition, her mark has trapped a thin-blood vampire named Fabian into her mind. He is well versed in modern day society and can significantly help in your journey. Fabian has his own perspective on how situations you encounter should be handled, so your relationship with him can be positive, negative, or somewhere in between by the end of the game. Obviously, this could be very annoying, but if done properly, I think it's a great way to give the player instant reactivity to major decisions that they make, especially if Fabian turns out to be a well-developed character. It was also mentioned that your clothes can have a significant impact on conversations, which is a level of reactivity the original game did not have. Different outfits are associated with specific roles and will cause characters to react towards you in a variety of ways. They also showed some concept art of some of the different options, and I think many of them look great. Finally, hunting and feeding on humans will play a big part in the game. Bloodlines 2 will have a resonance system that helps you manage the emotions of your prey. It appears you can make your victims feel specific emotions while you are feeding on them. How Fire utilizes this system and treats the citizens of Seattle will impact how our powers develop and what kind of ending you experience. Really happy to hear that multiple endings are planned, and it will be interesting to see how different they actually are. Back to what I didn't like about this showcase, the characters look absolutely soulless. Faces are stiff and animations are lacking. Honestly, it's wild to say that, considering the characters look lifeless even when compared to characters in the original game. Hard to imagine this isn't an issue TCR is already aware of, and my expectation is significant work will be done in this department over the course of the next year. I've seen some people commenting that they also feel the dialogue is trash, but I don't think we got nearly a large enough sample size to say that. Nothing I heard blows me away, but it doesn't convince me that there's an issue in that department as of yet. That's all the thoughts I had regarding the narrative stream for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. I will definitely continue covering this game and look forward to playing it next year. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.